5 years in the making. Root Party is back in person. Join us for the return of Root Party Friday, July 19th at Forgotten Star Brewery in Fridley. Come hang out with all your favorite fan personalities, play your favorite fan games for great prizes, and enjoy live music from the Chris Hockey Band. And don't forget about the great food and drinks all night as well. Get full details now, KFAN.com, keyword party, KFAN.com, keyword party, and hands off Max's fro.
Yeah, please ask before you touch the fro at the Root Party. Matter of fact, just as a rule of thumb, if you're a beautiful woman, feel free. Go ahead. You don't need permission. Just go ahead. You can run your hands through my fro. That's fine. If you're a dude, just pump the brakes for a second, okay? Ask me. I'll probably let you do it, but I don't know where your hands have been. You know what I'm saying? So just as a rule of thumb, just watch out.
I think we know where all of our hands are. Let's just be honest.
And that's why I don't want them in my hair. But it will be a really fun party. July 19th, Forgotten Star Brewing Company. It should be a lot of fun. Twins games have been a lot of fun lately. They were hotter than fish grease over the last couple of weeks, winning 6 in a row prior to taking these back-to-back losses to the Rays, including last night when they came up short in extra innings. Twins have a prime opportunity to get back on track today when they open up a 3-game road trip in Oakland, or wherever the hell the A's play now. I don't know. Probably like some random Holiday Inn parking lot. I don't even know where the A's play anymore. Who knows? But I'm not sure the A's players even know. But maybe our next guest does, because he's forgotten more about baseball than any of us have ever known. Tom Schreier of ZoneCoverage.com. Noted baseball expert, noted hardcore gangster rap enthusiast.
That's right. Damn straight.
Yeah, he wanted to open the show with a freestyle. I was like, dude, we don't got enough bleeps for that, man. Like, you're dropping so many curse words. We don't got enough bleeps for that. We're going to have to save that for another day. He's here in studio with us. Tom, where the hell do the A's play these days?
Yeah,
Is it still in Oakland right now?
Still in Oakland. It's a decrepit arena. It's terrible. I think it was at one time a decent baseball stadium, and then they kind of transferred it to football and ruined it for both teams. They are trying to make a move to Vegas. I don't understand moving out of the Bay Area, obviously, to go into Vegas, which, world-renowned city, but small market compared to the Bay Area. They have diehard fans there in the A's. This is a little bit for people who've watched Major League, a little like that, honestly, where they hate the owner. They don't understand why they'd move those teams out. It's a diehard fan base. I mean, if you are committed to the A's, and I know they've had past success, but when you have the Giants, right, World Championships recently, really nice stadium, you have diehard fans. It's also just a janky place to play. There's a little bit. Tampa's actually like that. The Tampa Park, where the dimensions are weird, and it's not fully built for baseball, but this is still, and we talked about this last time, they're still in that stretch where they should be winning games. And obviously this is why the disappointment with losing the 2 to Tampa, even though it was close, you're trying to make up ground, obviously, on Cleveland. And to have these games against Oakland, still an opportunity, go there and win. And again, it's going to be kind of an empty ballpark. And you kind of like, why are there major league games?
Yeah.
Right there?
And it just sucks for the people of the Bay Area, man. And it was kind of the randomest place that had a bunch of teams out of all the cities that do have a bunch of teams. But the Warriors left, now the Raiders left, and they don't even freaking got the A's anymore. And obviously we know the A's now as, one of the consistent bottom feeders of the MLB, but they're a storied, historic franchise.
For sure.
I mean, my favorite player ever, Ricky. He played for the A's, you know?
The thing is, they may go back. So I think they're going to Sacramento first, right? Technically, I guess, kind of Bay Area. And then I think the people in Vegas were like, I don't think you really have a plan. You know what I mean? And I think it might have been like, hey, they put up a hockey arena, but those are multi-purpose arenas. You could put the basketball team there and whatnot, have concerts. They were first in, had a lot of success, and obviously that's why there's interest. The Raiders make some sense in that they're a global brand, right? I think the Raiders are the Raiders no matter where they are, LA, Oakland, now Vegas. Especially there, I assume that's an indoor arena because of the temperatures in Vegas.
Right.
There may be a situation where they come back and go, hey, Oakland, what about we build a new arena or whatever? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, they had their own problems. I think when you're playing a team like that, take advantage of that. I think I guess the Twins went through that a long time ago with the Metrodome and all this stuff before they built Target Field. But yeah, for the Twins, I guess you have to go into this arena and you have to, kind of block out what's around you, right?
Yeah.
And go pick up some wins, because as much as, they had been saying this, like, hey, these were close games against Tampa, I think Tampa's also a reminder. The AL East is good, even though they're the fourth best team, right? Like, they're always competitive, those teams in there. And, and ultimately you can't beat yourself up too much on those two games, but these are just missed opportunities. I think we said it last time with Colorado. You got to use this time to make up ground, because they have not beaten the best teams in Major League Baseball, right? The Yankees, Cleveland, Baltimore, right? And I think, ultimately they'll probably have to do some stuff at the trade deadline to give themselves a boost, but put yourself in that position, right? Make people care about the Twins competing against Cleveland as we get down the stretch. Your best chance is winning the division, trying to have some home games in the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with the wild card mess and all that type of stuff. Just try to get in how you ever can get in. You mentioned the MLB trade deadline is about a month away. I think it's July 30th, I believe. Obviously, a lot can change in a month's time, but do you see the Twins going out and being buyers and making any big moves ahead of the trade deadline? I know that's not usually their bit, much to the consternation of everyone in the Twin Cities, but do you see them being buyers at the trade deadline?
I do. I mean, they were aggressive with the Molly and Lopez trades. This was 2 years ago. Really weird trades where it wasn't just us here that, nationally people really liked those trades. Did not work out, and all of a sudden you have prospects in other organizations. I mean, part of why Baltimore is succeeding is because some of the trade.
They have a million prospects,
and that's the thing is, I think you don't want to be in a situation. There were people asking about Royce Lewis, right? You don't want to trade him for, I think, Syndergaard. They wanted him for Syndergaard. They wanted him for Stroman. I understand at the time there was demand for pitching, and Royce Lewis was injured. But we see now when he breaks the ribbon display. I mean, that's crazy, right?
That's nuts.
He hits it off the ribbon display. They had to tell him, hey, you don't have to pay for it. But you think kind of the leader he is, how clutch he is, the guy who can go into Yankee Stadium isn't fazed by it, right? That's the guy you want on the team. You got to be careful with that. And some of these guys, Brooks Lee, they'll go to right away. I don't give up on Julian, don't give up on Wallner. But at some point, because you have the glut of these guys, use those to go get the pitcher you need, right? I think Lopez will come back and be better. Joe Ryan's pitching really, really well. But you need a third guy, practically, obviously, for the playoffs. But also, we know pitchers get injured. We know how they control the game. I also think when you look at the topsy-turvy season, part of that is a good pitching can actually keep those games close. And you might, even in an offensive lull, be able to win games, right? So that's vital. And I think you can't, at some point, you only have so many major league roster spots. They have to decipher who can we move on to and who do we have the replacement for, and understanding there's depth one step below who aren't on the cusp of the majors who can step in eventually, right? So I think this is a time, given they have the prospects, go get that. And then inevitably they will trade. And I think you usually trade for two relievers, because going back, you could get a Romo, you could get a Dyson, right? You might get a guy who's a dud. You want to make sure you at least get one guy at the deadline who can step in, flesh out the bullpen.
Yeah. And I think coming into the season, pitching was one of the things obviously fans had a little bit of anxiety about, but we thought at least, we got Pablo. Pablo's our ace. But lately, I mean, he even called it. This has been the roughest stretch of his career. He's given up a league worst 16 home runs in 80 innings and has the highest ERA on the team at 5.63. What's going on with Pablo Lopez? You just said you believe that he'll bounce back, but what's happening with him right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit. He has a pitch for each side, right? Lefty, righty, and I think when one isn't working, he goes away from it. That's what you're supposed to do. If you have a sweeper that's hanging up, you can't keep throwing it. It's exactly. Homers, right? But I think he will just abandon that. Guys will pick up on that, and it becomes a little bit easier, right, to decipher what's coming at you. I think part of it is kind of what happened last year. I think we talked about this last time, that there was eventually the peripheral numbers will say he will actually get better.
See, all his expected numbers are way below his actual numbers.
Yeah, I always use fielding independent pitching, which is just how well is he pitching regardless of the defense behind him. Some people use BABIP, it's batting average on balls in play. When a guy says
so many different acronyms.
I know, and to be fair, now he's into this stuff. He is really smart. He I think was like a med student, or would have been a med student, except he played baseball. I mean,
his dad was a doctor, I think.
Yeah. And you can tell, I've actually talked to him. I was like, hey, if you were a football player, you'd actually be in a classroom. That's how those guys, study film and whatnot. In baseball, you're literally just talking to a catcher and like a pitching coach. But incredibly intelligent. He'll go through those numbers. A guy like Chris Paddock, he was like, what's FIP? And I was like, here's the thing. I don't think you need to know what that is. It only helps you if it gives you context. Why I'm using it is I'm seeing these peripheral numbers and going, I think he is pitching a little better than his raw ERA would tell you, right? Having said that, he needs to have all his pitches going. His thing is, he's probably not overpowering you. I think he throws about 95, but he's not overpowering you, right, with his fastball. It is, you need to guess what's coming, and that's very difficult for all but the best hitters, right? And I think luckily he has the mindset because he's a veteran and I think he's a relatively calm person because he has all this context that he is not going to get overwhelmed by raw results. Having said that, you need to go deliver, right? We have Pablo Dea. We've seen him in Houston, right?
Yeah.
Pitch like an ace. The problem is when the Twins traded for him, it was, are you getting kind of a 2 or a 3 and to give up a rise who everyone loved and hits 400, right? I think he's overcome that a little bit, but can he be more than just kind of a guy at the top of the rotation? There's probably only 10, 12 true aces in the MLB, right? Everyone technically has one, but it's just their best pitcher.
Yeah.
Is he the Twins' best pitcher? Can he be the Twins' best pitcher? Which is a question with Joe Ryan right now. Beyond that, could he be an ace caliber pitcher you can trust in the playoffs again? So again, long season, he may get it going again, but you don't want this to be the trend. You don't want the trend to be, hey, he's not good in the beginning of the season. Like that's just not acceptable,
exactly.
Right? And he wouldn't accept that either. But I think that's the next step for him is just get to that place you were. He's working towards that. It is discouraging with the results he's had though.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting to read that because everything else I'm reading is saying just in general, and obviously every individual has their own struggles and stuff, but across the board in the MLB, offense is way down this season. They said if it continues the pace right now, it's the fewest homers since 2015, fewest hits per game in a full season since 1968.
That's insane.
I mean, that's not Martin Luther King Jr. was alive. I don't even know how many brothers were playing baseball in 1968. That's nuts. And if it continues, the lowest batting average on balls in play since 1992. What do you think is it because of just top tier pitching? What do you think is going into this offensive slump kind of around the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are doing what the Twins are doing, where they have the TrackMan device that says this is how many rotations you have, this is the pitch shape. They're getting more precise in terms of what they throw, right? Guys are throwing harder. I mean, that's biomechanics. That's just using your body, right, and your big muscles to generate velocity. What I'm trying to look into, and it's hard because like no one really wants to admit any of this stuff, but some of it is literally the ball, right? In 2019, they said it was juice. That just means the laces were lower, and I think it was harder to grip. Guys were getting blisters because they couldn't hold on to the ball, the pitchers. And I think, who knows? Again, I don't know the conspiracy if the league was trying to juice home runs or whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, the league found out people actually like balls in play. They don't like it where it's just strikeout, walk, home run. And they want home run to be a big event. Listen, it's why we love Royce Lewis is because he's doing something that's rare very often. Right?
Yeah. Every night.
And for him, I mean, again, with that ball that looked like the game winner, everyone, right, thought that was out. If you actually looked at the trajectory of the ball, there wasn't. He admitted off the bat it was not going to go out. But we think Royce Lewis, we think home run. Almost anyone else, you go, hey, they're having trouble. And I don't know. They have had some hard hit balls. Sometimes it's right out of fielder. Sometimes I don't know what it is, but I do think the league has figured out you actually want base runners, right? You want balls in play. You want to see great defensive play. You want the home run to be a special event. And I don't know if they try to kind of curtail that, right, and bring that back, or it's just a matter of, and I think it might be a balance of both. There are experts now, right? The Twins have a guy like this who literally say, this is how you should throw a baseball. I know it sounds dumb, but this is how you avoid injuries. This is how you increase velocity. And it can happen in a season. Chris Paddock was throwing 89 a couple starts ago, right? Goes to Cole Sands, reliever. He's like, Sands goes, I think you're throwing off your toe. You're activating like your quad or something like that, not your glute. You want to use the big glute. You want to use the big muscle, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden he's throwing 97. And you see this with Simeon. Yeah. And again, he's capable of doing that, right? He just wasn't doing it. They are making adjustments on the fly, start to start. Simeon Woods Richardson, again, why he's pitching so well, he increases velocity from like 90 to 97. I mean, obviously same thing with Joe Ryan, throws incredibly precisely, right? And he was sitting 89 to 91. The reason why the Rays gave up on him, they took aging Nelson Cruz in a trade for Joe Ryan, right? It was because he was throwing something like 60% fastballs. And if you're throwing that at 90 miles per hour, they're going, yeah, that might work in AAA, even with how precise you are. Right. In the big leagues, they're going to tee off on that. And he has remained precise in his command. He's throwing 95. He's switched his pitch mix, and that's why Joe Ryan is Joe Ryan. So I think the technology is so much better. The communication's better. I just think you have different experts. It's not just an ex-pitcher. Those guys can help you mentally. This is where I was when I was a player. Right. This is how you get through this. You also need someone with a degree to go, hey, dude, like throw the ball this way, and you'll throw 97. They're not going to touch it, right? So I think that stuff's fascinating. Those staffs is getting bigger, more specialized. It's one of those things. We just can be so much more precise and adjust so much quicker in Major League Baseball.
And speaking of pitching, I got to ask you, because you cover the Twins beautifully, you cover the Vikings beautifully. Obviously, this was going to come up.
I know you're going.
J.J. McCarthy first pitch. I mean, can we get one of those pitching expert guys to maybe work with my guy J.J. next time he's out on the mound?
I mean,
I heard him and Dallas Turner both kind of threw some duds out there.
Yes, that's right. And Dallas Turner, you go, whatever. Hey, listen, he just has to get after the quarterback, right? With McCarthy, the surprise is, usually these guys are multi-sport athletes. I don't know if McCarthy played baseball at a high level, right? But he does throw a ball for a living, right? And I think, in the abstract, I don't think this reflects his accuracy.
Of course,
right?
It has nothing to do with him on the football field,
I think,
right? It's just a fun bit to
here's the thing. You need to watch that video if you haven't seen it and laugh at it because it's hilarious. It's an objectively hilarious thing that happened. But I mean, in all seriousness, Alec Lewis, who I know people are familiar with here, he did a story on how they're actually working on quarterbacks on throwing motion because, ironically, as much as baseball did it out of necessity, right? Because guys were getting hurt and you invest all this money in the pitchers and you have to keep them healthy. They're looking at quarterbacks and going, well, you're going to be better if you throw more accurately, right? And they're using people from the baseball side and saying, you should improve your throwing motion, right? I don't know what to make of McCarthy other than I'm actually shocked. Dallas Turner, you can tell me whatever. You can throw it backwards. I don't care. Maybe he's trying to pick off someone at second. But I think with McCarthy, I just don't know. And again, I just don't understand if there's something with the mound or it's just he was nervous or whatever. But you think of him, he actually reminds me mentally of kind of Royce Lewis. Like he has that moxie. He's been a winner at every level. Yeah. He doesn't seem like someone who'd be fazed about like throwing a first pitch, right? Maybe it's just, again, he hasn't been on a mound. Maybe it's a small baseball. I mean, like I said, you can't do this in Minnesota. You're going to incite panic.
Right. Our two biggest insecurities, Twins pitching and Vikings quarterbacking.
And he did it both at the same time. So yes, McCarthy, you should have practiced a little bit. You got to talk to people about this. Talk to experts if you can go out there. And otherwise, you're inciting panic, man. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you about J.J. McCarthy and much more Vikings around the corner. This is Tom Schreier of ZoneCoverage.com. A couple more segments of 9 to noon to go.
Nothing defines Minnesota quite like its 10,000 lakes, and we need help to keep them beautiful. Post on social media using the hashtag #ChooseChill to help Coors Light, KFAN, and Conservations Minnesota protect the lakes, rivers, and waters we love. Use the hashtag #ChooseChill.
Max Fuller here, filling in for 9 to noon. Normally, this is the Friday football feast with PA and charts. And we haven't even touched on the purple yet. So we decided to have Tom Schreier hang out for another segment. He not only covers the Twins for ZoneCoverage.com, but he covers the Vikings as well. He just had a very eloquent breakdown of the J.J. McCarthy opening pitch the other night. And speaking of J.J. McCarthy, pretty much all the reports are unanimous from various sources that he's not going. The Vikings are not viewing him as a week one starter. He's not necessarily ready to be a week one starter. And I even saw the most recent one said there's less than 10% chance of JJ starting over Sam Darnold. And you go to the mini camps, you go to training camp, and training camp starting here, and just like a little over a month or under a month, I should say. Is that kind of what your summation of it as well?
I think that was the expectation going in. I mean, obviously the option to trade up and draft someone who's a little older. I think like Penix was like 25. JJ McCarthy, I think they want a guy they can mold, right? Someone with the mindset of a winner, someone who must have enough technical ability. We didn't see a lot of it, right? Because it was a running offense with Michigan, but they must believe in his technical ability to deliver. I also think, O'Connell is maybe a realist in some ways that not a ton of teams actually have the quarterback that drives winning. Obviously, those are the championship caliber teams, but those are really rare players. Hopefully, McCarthy is that. But we know he really liked Kirk Cousins, and we knew Cousins' rep, right, going in, whereas 500 quarterback, 4th round pick, drafted to be a backup, all that stuff. And he embraced him, I think, because he does everything right. And I think that's what he's trying to get McCarthy to do. Drop back 5 yards. If I tell you 5 yards, look at your reads and the way you're supposed to do that. Understand the offense inside and out. That's very complicated that even a veteran like Cousins, actually, I think Darnold, right, who's 27, veteran, is having some trouble picking up. And so that leads to a longer incubation period, but McCarthy's younger, 21. I also just look at it. The first part of the schedule is very difficult, right? New York, San Francisco, Houston, Green Bay, and then the Jets in London, which just is a really difficult game going into the bye. And I think Darnold's job is take us through that, right? Keep the Vikings relevant, keep people talking about the Vikings, kind of keep that hope alive going into the bye week, and then hopefully in the 2 games coming out, Detroit, Los Angeles. From there, if people are kind of in the back of their mind going, where could you see McCarthy? It could be against Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Depends on how good Chicago is, but Chicago, Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago, right? That's that middle part of the schedule. I don't think that means he will start there. And you start to see reports that they are comfortable with Darnold. They're talking up Darnold. By the way, I think Darnold could be a very likable figure here because you look at his situations and you go, well, who's going to succeed with the Jets? The Jets are already having problems, and they signed Aaron Rodgers, and they have this great defense, right? All this infrastructure, supposedly. They're already having problems. That is the Jets. They are just they always have a problem. And I think, he starts there. In the Carolina situation, as much as he should have competed for a starting job there, I guess they were never fully committed to him. I don't know why they would be, but it was the Matt Rule. It was kind of this cluster of an organization. We've seen what's happened to him since, right? And so I think, football's a little bit, I think, any sport, nature versus nurture, right? The Vikings are saying we're taking care of the nurture, right? Justin Jefferson, right? Addison looks pretty good. TJ Hawkinson, when he comes back, finally have some continuity against the offensive line. Also, here's the thing, and Brian Flores has to be pumped. They went and got talents, right? Yeah. Trading up for Dallas. I love it. I know they don't have any draft picks in the coming year, but
who cares?
Yeah, Dallas Turner. Atlanta should have taken him probably 8th, right? And they go, yeah, we got him at 17 or whatever it was. That is a talented dude. I think he can step in and make an impact. That dude looks like a raw athlete. I think that he'll figure out the defense. And the other thing is it's different, right? O'Connell's is a system. Flores goes, who's my guys? How do I use them, right? That's why Metellus, succeeds here. And I think if you have the talented defense, right, you suppress offense, what they're supposed to do, right, keep these games close. The offense is supposed to be dynamic. A guy who understands the system and does everything right, that was Kirk Cousins, that could be Darnold, should succeed in it. And why I think people may fall in love with them is everyone loves the redemption story.
Of course.
27.
Yeah. And now, Minnesotans, we're natural underdogs. We especially love the underdog story.
Exactly. So, that doesn't mean Darnold's staying longer than the season. Don't get too attached, right? But I think in terms of, if he does his job, and that obviously doesn't mean winning every game, there's going to be an uphill battle here. But if he does his job going in the bye week and immediately after, it not only sets up McCarthy potentially, which does suck for Sam Darnold, right? It means like, hey, I did my job, and then McCarthy, you take over. I'll go back to another team. But it sets himself up to be good enough this season. And it's going to be difficult. There are no longer gimmies. I don't know when Chicago is going to be ready, but they have their quarterback right now, and they have the cap space, and I think eventually they'll start building out a team, assuming Caleb Williams is what we think he is. And we know Detroit's good, right? Detroit was always a funny game where I was like, this actually probably just sucks for everyone, right? It's a game you're supposed to win.
Right.
We remember some close ones. I mean, Cousins shaking Zimmer. And obviously some losses. The guy, Dancer or whatever, is too far back in the end zone. But you don't really want football games that you're supposed to win, right? These are supposed to be contested and ground out and stuff like that. Now they will be. Obviously that team is really, really good. And I know everyone hates it here, but Green Bay, they have the franchise quarterback, and they have figured out something a lot of teams have not figured out. I think Pittsburgh's done a little bit, but how do you get that many receivers who are good? That's drafting, but that's also player development, right? And I think that, the Vikings are trying to replicate that as well, right? Addison has said this all year. That guy is dynamic and really, really good player. When you ask him why he succeeded, he goes, well, 18 over there, right?
Yeah.
He takes away a lot of attention from me. It'd be different. He had to step in and be the number one guy. I think even a Brandon Powell had some moments and stuff like that. And then, obviously add in Hawkinson when he comes back from the injury. So, it is going to be tough given the division, given how the season starts. But you can see a pathway where they stay relevant, and then you just have to take care of business. You need to obviously be healthy, but ready to go once you get that mushy middle, because that would set you up to be in the mix with the NFC North.
Right, and it's going to be a super contentious NFC North. Brett Blakemore's over there with a Packers fan grin, just so happy, just glowing about kind words about his Green Bay Packers. It's going to be a contentious division, but luckily the Vikings are in a place where they're not the Patriots. They don't need J.J. McCarthy to start week one. Drake May is kind of screwed.
Spot,
it's a tough spot, especially with the difficult schedule, like you said. I'm sorry, I can't help it. You mentioned Michigan. Brett knows where I'm going with this. I don't know if you saw their newest recruit.
No, what's this? Oh man, you're gonna kill me, dude.
This is unbelievable.
Oh no, my mic's not working. My mic's not working.
It's unbelievable. I thought this was The Onion. I thought this was TMZ. I checked every possible source.
Oh no.
It's a kid. His first name is Noah.
Tom, just turn your mic off.
I'll back away. I think I know where you go to this.
It's his last name starts with a K.
Yep.
And then it's literally, and I'm not making this up, just the N-word.
Yeah.
With no ER, but it's just K, N-word. And I'm like, first of all, how did the people at Ellis Island let this become a name? Someone should have changed this a long time ago. There shouldn't be a generation or generations of this. I just have so many questions. Like, what was the first day of school like? You know? Like, you know that teacher was sweating like a sinner in church. Like, is there a Noah kid? Is there a Noah K? And I'm like, hey, man, props. For white people can't say it, so they just invented their own. Well played. Now, anytime somebody gets caught up saying it, they're like, I was just talking about Wolverines football. Truly genius work. I mean, just be careful, Michigan fans out there. Just be careful. If Noah becomes a standout player, just think twice about buying that jersey. That's all I'm going to say. And anybody covering the Wolverines this year, especially TV and radio guys, Godspeed to you, my friends. I don't even know how you're going to do that call. Like, mama, there goes that. Like, how are you going to do? Iron Eagle is going to have some tough decisions to make on those calls this year. That's all I'm going to say on it. It's unbelievable. I'm not making this up. That's really the kid's name. Okay, I had to mention that. I could not believe my eyes when I saw it. I still need to see a birth certificate. I think someone might have been making that up. Maybe I've been trolled here. Back to the Vikings, though. You're going to be at training camp. They start training camp July 27th. It goes through August 8th. I think there's 9 practices open to the public. You can go on Vikings.com, check that out. The kids love it. There's tons of activities for kids to do and families to do and everything like that. Heading into training camp, I think a lot of like the big bill, big name positions, we kind of know who's going to be there, who's going to be starting. What are some sneaky position battles heading into training camp in your mind?
I always go to the cornerback, right? Because it's such an important position and they approach it so differently. Mike Zimmer used all the first round picks, right? On cornerbacks, knowing those guys had to lock guys down. He was used to Xavier Rhodes and Rhodes closed. Take out the best receiver. When you don't have that, your life becomes a lot more complicated. I'm actually pulling this up to see who they have because it is kind of a mix of guys here. Yeah. I think, Caleb Evans, Mekhi Blackman, Andrew Booth Jr. I'm trying to look at some of these young guys. Booth, can he get healthy? Evans, can he give you kind of the good part of what he's giving you of his career? Obviously, they replaced him on the depth chart last year. Byron Murphy is probably your most certain player, right? The veteran. Yeah. I'm a guy who he played through an injury. I'm trying to remember what it was, but in this Cincinnati game that happened on like the third snap. And these guys are crazy, man. With the adrenaline going, and I guess in the everyone in the stands didn't notice it, and then that took him out throughout the rest of the year, assuming he's healthy. I think he's the most certain player. Shaquille Griffin was a really good player for Seattle. Can he get that back? I understand why GMs do this, right? They say if we can get him healthy in the right system, maybe a guy like Flores who's grinding tape, sees something in him and puts him in a position to succeed. He's a guy with some upside, but there's so much uncertainty around him. I don't know what to make of how to project him, right? And so I think that's a big one to me. I mean, I think there's some interior line stuff too, but we know who's going to be rushing the quarterback. We kind of know what that linebacker core is going to look like, right? And I think with Cam Bynum emergence with Harrison Smith, everyone knows who he is. Safety in the secondary, pretty certain, but I think no matter what, in the Flores system, as much as the Donatello thing didn't work, you could be a bad tackler because there's multiple guys coming, right? Everyone's supposed to be behind. In this system, you have to be sure tackling. And given it's a passing league, even with Flores' genius and even with the components they've added, doesn't really matter if like Van Ginkel, Cashman, Turner, these guys they added, if they're doing their job, if the corners aren't, I don't think it's going to work. They're going to use a lot of rushes. They're going to put their corners in tough spots. And so to me, that's the big question. That's what they need to answer. That's what I'm looking at is how are these guys going to hold up, especially in the early part of the season when you're going to have good quarterback play when they will be tested.
100%. That is the elite football mind of Tom Schreier, zonecoverage.com. Last question for you, Tom. Just kind of NFL at large. A story broke earlier this week that some owners are discussing a possible QB salary cap amid all these growing contracts. I mean, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm a Titans fan, so I'm a hater. I grew up a Titans fan. I'm absolutely a hater. I will preface that with this. But I mean, a guy like Trevor Lawrence is getting top level. I mean, he's one of the most highest paid players in NFL history.
Any chance we can get this done before Jordan Love signs his contract?
You're right about that.
Guys like Brett are sweating, and owners around the league are just, these contracts are just getting so big that there has to be some type of either implosion or some type of salary cap or something like that. So do you think that that's a possibility? Do you think that's something that could come into play here?
I understand it. And obviously from the CBA standpoint, like the people who are representing the players are going to go, well, this is the most important player. That one guy, even in a flawed system, even with a flawed team, flawed organization, can overcome that. If you have the quarterback, that guy should make as much money as possible. The issue is, even as the salary cap goes up, right, even as football continues to get more popular, there's more money in it, it tends to go to the same positions than the same guys, right? And so that doesn't really solve the issue. I know in the back of someone's mind, they go, well, if there's more salary cap, you should be able to spend on more team. The problem is, as soon as you flip from that quarterback, I mean, the Packers fans know this, like, you didn't get the Jordan Love rookie deal, right? So, like, as soon as you flip from, let's say if McCarthy plays well, right, and you get him cheap and he's performing like a $50 million player and making less than that, then all of a sudden you start bleeding players, right? And that becomes less fun for everyone. You want to see, I mean, unless I guess you hate the Chiefs, you want to see the Chiefs and Cincinnati and the teams, Buffalo, the teams with the best quarterbacks play on really good, filled-out teams. And from the quarterback standpoint, they're going to take the brunt of this, even though they'd be like, well, yeah, but my defense is terrible, man. We can't keep anyone on there because what they pay me, right? I mean, the guy probably can't come out and say that, but in the back of his mind, he'd go, hey, I need other components around me, given the way football's played. But I think it makes sense. You're going to have to fight the people representing the players, obviously, because the quarterback's not going to want that. The other thing is, other positions are getting more expensive, right? Look at and by the way, I think Justin Jefferson earned every cent.
Absolutely.
But receiver, that market's blowing up. Defensive end, because you need two of those guys, right, to get after the quarterback, probably a premium corner, all this stuff. And I think, I just believe that in general, taking a step back, right? You want to see great teams. You want to see great players too.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see that greatness, right, if they're taking up too much of the cap. And I understand from the player standpoint, they may go, look, Tom Brady took discounts, right? Supposedly the Patriots were as well run as any other team, right? But we look back on that and we're like, actually, the Crafts actually didn't spend a lot on some of those teams. And like the receiver situation didn't work out. That's why, again, I hate to say this, but if you're the Packers, you go, well, we can develop receivers. We're good. Almost every other team, they go, the reason why Justin Jefferson makes that much money, why the top guys, is they're so rare, right? You might get a Jalen Reagor, you might get some of these guys up who have busted out. And so I understand why they want to cap it. It's actually probably best for the game. I don't know how functionally you do that because quarterbacks have so much leverage in the NFL.
Aaron Rodgers in his prime could have thrown for all three of us and getting us 100 yards in a game.
I know he believes that.
Right. Yeah. He for sure believes that. Tom, appreciate you stopping by the studio to share some of your elite baseball and football knowledge and your elite Noah K knowledge. As some of the texters have texted in, Covenant Cleanup, he's signing to Eastern Michigan. He's committing to Eastern Michigan.
Covenant Cleanup.
Thank you.
Say stupid things all of the time.
There's going to be some Covenant Cleanups on the Eastern Michigan call, no doubt. When Noah K gets loose. Tom, where can the people find you on social media?
At T Schreier 3 on Twitter, and my website is zonecoverage.com. Daily content on the Minnesota sports teams.
They do great work over there at zonecoverage.com. Go ahead and check them out. We'll close out the show with some more listener questions. We got plenty on the text line, 64686. But if you want to call us, 800-320-5326, or text in one of your questions, we'd love to hear from you. Final segment of 9 to noon for the week, coming at you next. Segment of 9 to noon for the week. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, whether you liked it, loved it, hated it. I appreciate you for listening. PA, Paul Allen and Nordo should be back same time, same place next week. It's impossible to fill. Maybe. We don't know. I know PA will be back next week. It's impossible to fill the PA-shaped hole in all of our hearts, but it's been a lot of fun getting an opportunity to fill in over these last couple of weeks or so. Kevin Fallness did a great job. Dave Sinekin did a great job. Of course, YA, my man, Alec Lewis did a great job, but it's been a lot of fun. Brett Blakemore.
I was here all week.
You're the real MVP. And I feel like Kevin Durant. I'm about to tear up right now. You're the real MVP of this week. You do an amazing job producing. You're one of the best producers in the building, Brett. I'd definitely,
oh my God.
I'd say you're like one D, 1E. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to pick. Like,
1D.
Yeah, like 1D, one. You know, it's like, this is 1A, 1B, 1C. Everybody's number one except for me. Yeah. I'm like third, fourth somehow. But you're amazing. You've done amazing work today. We got a bunch of texts on the text line for both of us. If you have any questions, comments, whatever you want to talk about, this is the People's Show. We want to hear from the people. 646-868-800-3205-326. Got a couple more minutes to go. Brett Blakemore. Someone says, if Brett was named after Brett Favre, then who was Max named after? And that is true that you were named after Brett Favre, right? That's not a bit.
That's not a bit at all. That is 100% true. It was, I think it was the season after they won the Super Bowl. I always get mixed up which ones was which. But
if it was the season before, then that's
no. I know I'm not a Super Bowl baby. I think I was born when they won the Super Bowl, or shortly before they won the Super Bowl. But yeah, they were watching the playoffs in the hospital, and my dad was like, "That's it."
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And he also said it's a good radio name, which is because my dad's a radio nerd. So,
look at that. Yeah. He sets you up for success, sets you up as a Packers fan, and sets you up for your radio future. I don't really know that.
And people screw up my name all the time, so it ends up not being a good radio name anyways. But,
I don't know that many famous people named Max. I know
Max. Oh, never mind.
Max Payne.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I was named after a video game that came out 10 years after I was born. There's the Max Greenfield. I just Googled it. The guy from Schmidt from New Girl. If you ever seen New Girl. There's not a whole lot of famous people named Max. So I don't know what I was named at. Maybe just because my volume is to the max, as some of the texters have pointed out. Maybe they just knew. They anticipated that I was going to be loud and obnoxious. We got another text coming in that says, do you prefer concerts or festivals? I feel like you have an opinion on this, Brett. I feel like you have a strong opinion.
I do like both. I'll say I miss Warped Tour every day. I think about Warped Tour and the nostalgia that it was. That was the best. I'm not going to accuse you of not knowing anything about the Warped Tour format, but I'm going to say it was unbelievable. As a kid in junior high and high school and like the prime of it, oh my God, I would go back to Warped Tour today. It's the best.
Didn't it come back for a little bit or something like that?
It did, but it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same as when you were a kid, of course. Yeah. We got Brandon from New Mexico, loyal listener, always showing us some love. Shout out to Brandon down in New Mexico. He said, hey, Max, who's an old school rapper that passed that you wish you could see in concert?
And would you rather see him in concert or a festival?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like both. I like concerts. I like festivals. I just like live music in general. I like being around people. Obviously, sometimes the weather can be a factor in a festival and stuff like that. You don't really have festivals inside, so that's always a factor. But I just love live music, man. An old school rapper that passed. I mean, obviously Tupac is one of my childhood heroes growing up. I wish I could have seen Tupac live, man. That would have been so.
Hey, if you find that island.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. Maybe somewhere in Cuba someday, maybe I can still accomplish that dream. Is there, and just in general, artists in general that have passed, like I would have loved being able to see Sammy Davis Jr., the Rat Pack. I actually do. I love big band, like kind of swing music. A lot of people probably wouldn't expect it, but they just put on such a show back in the day, man. Honestly, part of it is because of Family Guy, because of all the goofy songs that they sing.
Oh, yeah.
It gets that style.
There's a lot of references that my mom would be like, how do you know that? I was like, Family Guy. They did a bit on it. Yeah.
It's a cultural educator, but just in general, I mean, Rick James would have been so awesome to see, obviously. I mean, James Brown would have been awesome to see. It was more than just a guy standing on the stage doing the music that you know and love. It was a whole entire production. There was a dance team, there was costumes and outfit changes, and it was this whole grand thing, which obviously some artists do these days, but sometimes it is just the guy standing on the stage, and sometimes that's fun too. But who's an artist that's passed, that's no longer with us, that you would have liked to see in concert, Brett Blakemore? Because you like a lot of more like contemporary modern music, I feel like.
Yeah, I really don't have a good answer for you. Thankfully, all my favorite bands are alive and well. Hopefully for a long time. Lucky.
Lucky.
So yeah. That my music taste is so off the wall. So I'll just leave it at that.
We got another texter that says, who won the Drake and Kendrick beef? And I'm assuming
Max?
That is, Brett, what is your opinions on the Drake and Kendrick beef? I'm assuming that's like tongue in cheek saying that, because Drake absolutely got obliterated in that beef, and Kendrick Lamar basically just had a whole concert dancing on his grave, broadcast to millions on Amazon Prime the other day. I mean, Bloods and Crips reunite. They put aside their gang beef just to hate on Drake. That's a generational fat L. Absolutely. Kendrick won that beef. Brett Blakemore won the day. He's the real MVP, producing 9 to noon. Shout out to Tom Schreier for joining us. Shout out to Crazy Legs for enlightening us on breakdancing culture. And shout out to Heather Rule for talking a little puck with us today. It's been a lot of fun. We got the Common Man program, Tenna B, and my man DC coming up next. It's been fun, y'all. Peace.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.